At the beginning of the story, we see Goddess Noyon apologizing to Iruma, because he was summoned by mistake. Iruma asks the goddess what she means by this. The goddess explains that the Sidonia Empire was summoning people using a forbidden spell, but the machine accidentally picked him up as well. When the goddess realized the spell was being used, she tried to stop them, but by then it was too late, and she had no choice but to bring Iruma's soul here. Iruma then asks the goddess to send him back to Earth. However, the goddess reveals that she damaged the machine in her anger, making it impossible to send him back. Iruma then asks what will happen to him now. The goddess suggests that he start a new life in Mildgard and, as an apology, she promises to provide her blessings. Reluctantly, Iruma agrees to her proposal. The goddess then instructs him to say status, and as soon as Iruma says it, his information appears before him. However, the job section is blank. So the goddess tells him to choose between a production or combat job. He chooses the production job, which grants him the ability to create things. Since he didn't choose the combat job, the goddess gives him a recovery magic spell for self-defense. After this, the goddess sends him to the Asgard continent. Iruma opens his eyes in a dense forest, and he realizes that he is a young boy. He notices a bag beside him, containing food and some coins. Curious, Iruma checks his status, and he discovers that he can perform magic. Excited, he tries using magic and finds that he can cast various spells with ease. He then sets off to search for a nearby village. Along the way, he comes across a high-quality piece of wood. Using his appraisal skill, he examines it and learns that it can be used to craft spear shafts. With magic, he transforms the wood into a spear. He then appraises the surrounding plants, and discovers that they can be used to make different kinds of potions, so he stores them in his item box. Suddenly, a girl named Molly runs toward him, screaming for help, as she is being chased by a large monster rabbit. As the rabbit leaps to attack, Iruma panics, and uses his spear to defeat it. This act earns him the warrior job. Grateful, Molly thanks Iruma and explains that she lives in a nearby village. Iruma asks her to guide him to her village, and Molly leads him there. Meanwhile, we see the heroes summoned by the Holy Sidonia Empire. As they try to figure out how they ended up there, a mysterious woman appears, and informs them that they have been summoned to save the world. Revealing her face, she introduces herself as Elizabeth, the first Empress of Sidonia. However, at the same time, the goddess Noyon grants Akane the revelation skill. This ability makes Akane sense that Elizabeth cannot be trusted. Back in the forest, Iruma arrives at Molly's home, where he meets her parents, Bunga and Martha. Bunga introduces Iruma to his blacksmith friend Baban. Iruma requests permission to stay in the village for a few days, and they agree. However, since there is no inn in the village, they take him to a vacant plot of land to build his own home. Using magic, Iruma quickly prepares the land, astonishing the villagers with his ability to use magic. Within a few hours, he constructs a magnificent house equipped with modern amenities. Iruma has gathered some ores from the mines with Baban, which he begins refining into ingots using alchemy. Immersed in his work, he loses track of time and exhausts himself. Later, Molly comes to call him for dinner, only to find him unconscious on the ground. Panicked, she calls her parents. Iruma explains to them his mana had been completely depleted. So Bunga gives him a healing potion, and Martha keeps a close watch on him for the rest of the day. Iruma crafts various metal ingots and creates numerous utensils, which causes his blacksmithing level to rise to 36. He then goes to assist Baban, who asks him to use magic to intensify the fire in the forge. With Iruma's help, Baban forges the best weapon of his life, and Iruma's level increases to 40. Curious about crafting potions, Iruma asks Bunga to teach him the process. Bunga explains the basics of potion making, and Iruma begins experimenting. However, the color of his potions turns out differently, leading him to believe it's because he used magical water. Intrigued, Iruma becomes more curious about potions, so he starts tasting various plants, which takes a toll on his body. Realizing his mistake, he uses purification magic to heal himself, gaining valuable experience and skills. Suddenly, a massive armored boar appears, and when Iruma tries to attack it with his spear, the spear breaks. He launches several magical attacks, but they fail to harm the boar. As the situation worsens, Iruma notices a wounded poison spider nearby. The spider intervenes, shielding Iruma from the boar's attack, but it gets further injured in the process. The boar prepares for another charge, leaving Iruma unsure of what to do. At that moment he gains the intuition skill, which guides him to leap directly in front of the boar. Using alchemy, he decomposes the boar mid-charge, defeating it. Afterward, Iruma approaches the spider, and heals it with magic. This act unlocks the tame skill, allowing him to make the spider his pet. He names her Maple, and she evolves into a more powerful form. The villagers are astonished that he managed to kill the boar. However, they are alarmed upon seeing Maple, as insect monsters are generally untamable. Iruma explains that he tamed her using his skill, which leaves everyone in disbelief. That evening, the villagers celebrate with a feast using the boar's meat. During the festivities, Bunga advises Iruma to sell the boar's hide and bones in the city, as they are valuable materials. Meanwhile, the goddess who summoned Iruma observes him from the divine realm. Another goddess asks Noyon why she sent Iruma 10 years into the past, but Noyon remains silent, withholding her reasons. Maple ties Iruma up in her web and complains that he doesn't play with her. To appease her, Iruma promises to spend time playing with her, which makes Maple very happy. Then Martha arrives, and her eyes fall on the shimmering threads of Maple's web. Fascinated, she uses the threads to weave clothes for herself. Iruma asks why she is making clothes out of the web, and she explains that it's spider silk, a material used to make clothes worn only by nobles. Iruma then asks Maple to come play with him, but she refuses. So Iruma goes to Babon to get some armor and shoes, as he plans to head to the city soon. Just then, Bunga arrives and informs Iruma that a merchant is coming to the village soon, and he can travel with him to Bolton City. After this, Iruma returns home and notices Martha, who is about to throw away some meat, because they lack the means to clean it. Seeing this, Iruma uses purification magic to clean the meat. Martha is surprised that Iruma can use light magic, and she advises him not to perform this magic in front of others. When Iruma asks her why, Martha explains that light magic is extremely rare in this world, and he could make a lot of money if used wisely. Iruma understands her point and decides to follow her advice. Before leaving, Iruma wants to thank the villagers for their love and support. Using magic, he builds a protective wall around the village. He also creates some tools to make their lives easier. A few days later, a merchant arrives in the village, and Bunga introduces Iruma to him. The merchant introduces himself as Papek. Iruma then gives a bottle of healing potion to Bunga. Papek notices the potion, becomes curious, and examines it closely before returning it. He then goes to his carriage to wait for Iruma. Meanwhile, Martha gives Iruma a piece of cloth woven from Maple's threads, made by the women of the village as a gift for him. Iruma wears the cloth, and expresses his heartfelt gratitude to the villagers for their care. As he gets on the carriage to leave, the villagers bid him farewell and ask him to return soon. Papek remarks that the villagers truly love Iruma. A young man becomes emotional, and his companion scolds him for crying like an old man. They introduce themselves, the girl says her name is Riel, the emotional young man is Heath, and their third companion is Boger. Papek explains that they are a C-rank adventurer party called Lion Fawn. Papek then asks Iruma if he would be willing to sell him the potion, and Iruma agrees. Just then, a group of goblins starts approaching the carriage. The three adventurers quickly step in, and take down the goblins, showcasing their combat skills. After a 3-day journey, Iruma arrives at Bolton City and visits the Adventurers Guild with Lion Fawn. He asks the receptionist Hans about the presence of an alchemist guild in the city. Hans informs him that there is no such guild in Bolton, but he advises Iruma to register with the Adventurers Guild, because guild cards can serve as a form of identification. Iruma agrees and registers himself as an adventurer, also registering Maple as his pet. Afterward, Iruma meets Papek with the potions. Papek offers him 10 silver coins for the healing potion and 15 silver coins for the mana potion. Iruma feels the price is unusually high and starts wondering if Papek might be trying to deceive him. Sensing his hesitation, Papek reassures him by mentioning that he has arranged accommodation for Iruma. Iruma declines, stating that he cannot afford a house. Papek then suggests renting one instead and sends him with his servant to check the place. When Iruma sees the house, he is stunned. It's a grand palace. Despite its luxurious appearance, the rent is only 1 gold coin. Surprised but pleased, Iruma decides to rent the palace. As Iruma and the servant head back, he notices a strong foul smell along the way. The servant explains that the stench comes from the city's sewers, which need a magic purification device to be cleaned, and that device is an extremely expensive tool. Surprised by this, Iruma decides to address the issue. The next day, he heads to the workshop in his palace and crafts a clay toilet. Using magic, he modifies and perfects it, but the process drains all of his mana. Nevertheless, he successfully creates the toilet. Just then, he hears Papek's voice and realizes Maple has wrapped Papek in her web. Apologizing to him, Iruma frees Papek. Suddenly, Papek feels the urge to use the restroom, so Iruma directs him to the newly built toilet. Moments later, Papek comes running out, screaming in confusion. He has never seen a toilet before. Iruma calmly explains how it works, detailing the purification device that ensures clean water flows into the sewer. Papek is astonished that Iruma can use purification magic. At this moment, Iruma recalls Martha's warning to keep his abilities a secret. He begs Papek to not reveal this to anyone, and Papek agrees. However, impressed by Iruma's innovation, Papek asks him to make 100 more toilets. Reluctantly, Iruma agrees. Papek then suggests that Iruma might need help with such a large task and advises him to consider getting a slave contract to hire some assistance. Iruma asks why he should consider getting a slave, and Papek explains that since he can use light magic, the Church of Divine Light might target him. Moreover, if word gets out about the purification magic used in his toilets, it could draw unwanted attention. Iruma contemplates whether he should make more toilets. Papek reassures him that he will ensure no one finds out Iruma is the creator. Despite this, Iruma firmly refuses to use slaves, deciding instead to handle all the work on his own. Just then, Iruma receives a message from the guild reminding him to complete a quest soon. Realizing he might need companions for the quest, he reconsiders Papek's earlier suggestion. So Papek takes him to the Mulan Company, a place known for dealing in slave contracts. As Iruma looks around, his eyes land on a beautiful elf girl. To his surprise, the girl looks directly at him and tells him to go back home. Iruma is left stunned, unable to understand how she knows him or why she said such a thing.